waking up to ash and dust. I wipe my brow and I sweat my rust. I'm breathing in the chemicals. I'm breaking in, shaping up, then checking out on the prison bus. This is it, the apocalypse. Whoa, I'm waking up. I feel it in my bones. Enough to make my system blow. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Welcome to the new age, to the new age.
How many washed-up has-been coaches does Georgia Tech have to retire for North Carolina to learn? This is freaking hilarious. Yeah, and if you're Bill Belichick, you're going to bed at about 4:30.
All systems go. The sun hasn't died. Deep in my bones, straight from inside. I'm waking up. I feel it in my bones. Enough to make my system blow. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Welcome to the new age, to the new age.
You know what? Let's just get into it. There's no time to dilly-dally. Dilly-dilly. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to WreckTalk. No hat tonight, which means you know we're serious. I tell you who's not serious though. North Carolina. Is there anyone? I would like to know. Is there anyone in the chat that thinks UNC? And I guess they've offered him. I mean, North Carolina has not officially come out and said our next head coach is a guy a year younger than the last guy that we hired. Does anyone think this is a good idea? I would love it if if there were some North Carolina fans in here. This to me, and I'm not just saying this for effect. Bryce thinks it's a good idea. I would like to know why you think it's a good idea. Because there's only one thing you could go to, and that would be his 6 Super Bowls. That would be the thing you go to. He's given them a 400-page manifesto Bible. He wants to. That's the other thing. Like, it's a well-known fact about Bill Belichick. He's incredibly difficult to work with, and I'm talking about from an organizational level. Okay? So if you think the 6 Super Bowls are impressive, name me one coach that first established himself as a good coach in the NFL, that then went to college and had success there. I'm not talking about Pete Carroll, who established himself as a good coach at USC in college and then went to the pros. I really cannot think of a guy that established himself as an NFL coach and then went to college. And I don't think anyone made as good of a case for the fact that this won't work than I did. Look, coaching college football is way harder than coaching NFL. It takes way more time. It takes way more effort. And if you don't believe that, look at the laundry list of coaches that are quitting their jobs in college to go take jobs in the NFL. I feel like Mac would be a good coach, but he will struggle to recruit. Are you talking about Bill Belichick? It's hard to tell because they're so old now. They both have very wrinkled faces. Pete Carroll was terrible his first stint in the NFL. There you go. The point being, it is rare that a coach goes from college to pros or pros to college. Again, it's even rare for a guy to establish himself in the pros and then go to college and have success. And then you have to look at how much of Bill Belichick's success was on the shoulders of Tom Brady. Again, what is Bill Belichick's record with Tom Brady as his quarterback? 249-75. Woo! Bunch of 6 Super Bowls. It's great. Feel good, right? What's his record without Tom Brady? 84-103. 84-103. Does that impress anyone? No. It impresses no one. So from the time Tom left New England to the time that New England ran a 6-time Super Bowl winning coach out of town, what was his record? 29-39. Boy, sounds like a UNC coach already, doesn't he? The definition of mid. I see why North Carolina wants to hire this guy. Also, what happened in the season immediately following Tom Brady leaving? He wins a Super Bowl. He wins, and it's not like it was prime Brady. It was a 40-something-year-old Brady. What was he, 42, 41? It's not official. Rojogan, great name. Slim, had Tampa Bay ever won a Super Bowl before Tom Brady was there? Because did they win it with, they might have won it with Gruden, actually, now that I think about it. Belichick took tough sumbitches, coached them hard, and won hard-nosed ball. Those pansy athletes wearing baby blue won't last a month. Well, that's the other thing. Could you name me a coach that, if you just look at their philosophy, how they treat players, how they talk to players, that you think would be less of a fit for today's college football? Can you imagine Bill Belichick recruiting? Yeah. You can come here. We don't even really want you anyways. We're on to Georgia Tech in 4 years. We're on to Georgia Tech. Could there be a starker difference between the NFL and college? Oh, well, you have NIL and all this, but there's no contracts really. There are kind of contracts, but you can break them at any time, and if you can't break them, you just cry antitrust. I'm telling you, if this ends up going through and becoming a thing, the off-season preceding Bill Belichick's first year, he might be in the position Marshall is now. This is crazy too. Marshall, weren't they the best in their division and Southern Miss was the worst? Now Southern Miss hires Marshall's coach. Marshall could realistically have every single player on their team hit the portal. Gateway to the NFL, that's how he sells it. That's only going to get you so far. The other thing you're going to have to look at is what even is their NIL offering to get players. First of all, talent's never been North Carolina's issue. Am I wrong? Has talent ever been? You look at all the kids they have hitting the portal that started for them this year, they're 4- and 5-star guys. They're 4- and 5-star guys. The problem with North Carolina is they can't hire a coach worth of shit to save their lives. That's North Carolina's problem. Larry Fedora, through 6 years, basically has the same record as Mac Brown. Basically the same record. Mac Brown trying to ride off into the sunset. Who does he hire? Jeff Collins. Historically bad defenses. Well, they were bad before. They were never 70-50 to James Madison bad. college football coach has to be a good GM, and Bill, the GM, got proven to be terrible. That is true. That is true. That's what else. If he's such a great coach, why does no one want anything to do with this guy other than North Carolina? Just like with Jeff Collins, no one wanted anything to do with him. That was a Power 4 program. North Carolina says, oh, come over here. Yep, yeah, we got a spot for you. No one wants anything to do with Bill Belichick. Every NFL team that has had a head coaching vacancy has turned this guy down. And this is what's insane to me. I said it in the video. No one wants to hire him. The absolutely brain-dead Tar Heels are the only one that have really considered seriously hiring him. And then he makes a list of demands for them, which includes who they can hire as their next head coach. Let me ask you guys something. If you were the AD if you were Bubba Cunningham, and then a guy who no one wants anything to do with, you're going to give him a shot, maybe he's the guy, starts telling you who you can hire after him, wouldn't you show him the door? Like, you're not going to tell us who we're going to hire after you? We're going to hire your son? What's Washington's defense doing right now? What's Washington's defense ranked right now? Let's go look it up. I have the internet. I can do that. You're at Georgia Tech. You can do that. You guys hired a coach that's so awful. I literally basically built an entire channel off of it. What is wrong with North Carolina? Who is texting me right now? I'm doing YouTube. All right, total defense. Let's look. What do you want, woman? I'm doing something. Total defense. Total defense. Let's see Washington, where they're at. Well, they're 27th. They're 27th in total defense. So he's not awful. So let me ask you something. Why not just hire Belichick's son and skip all the pageantry and nonsense and toxicity? That would make sense, right? He's been a college coach. He's recruited in college. Washington was a playoff team last year, and they have the 27th ranked total defense. And you still get the name recognition. His name's Belichick as well. I mean, no lie, it would literally make more sense to hire Belichick's son than Bill Belichick. Like, you convince me otherwise. Appreciate the $5 from John Burns. You're the man. Says, this is the inmates running the prison. Speaking of prison, doesn't Bill have a storied history with investigations and suspensions and all of that? Slim says, Manny Diaz is the best coach in North Carolina. Let that simmer. I can't argue with that. Manny Diaz would be a better hire than Bill Belichick. Stan Garner, member of the channel, says, I don't think Bill realizes how much effing work a college football head coach is now. I don't think he does either. And like, it's not even like negative recruiting or whatever, but this is a young man's game. This is a young man's game. This is why if I'm Miami, I'm happy that I have Manny Diaz. What is he? Right around 50? I don't even know if Mario Cristobal. Is Mario Cristobal even 50 yet? I'm happy with Brent Key. He's 44, 45. Like, it's a young man's game. You're going to, Jesus Christ, lady. All right, we got to snooze her. That's why I don't mess with the ladies. Unless I'm paying them. Hashtag Fulton Industrial Boulevard. Hashtag Claremont Lounge. Mario is 54. But still, you cannot be excited about, like, if I'm a North Carolina fan, it's like, all right, this was a rough season. And make no mistake for North Carolina, this hire has to hit. This hire has to hit. You have got to make the right hire. That's right. Hashtag Goldie. Hashtag opening beer bottles with her tits. All right? If you know, you know. So this Bill Belichick thing, if you're a North Carolina fan, better damn work. It better work. And it to me, it's just not looking good. It's not looking good. Carter Floyd says, if that 400-page Bible is true, it sounds like Bill Belichick doesn't want the job, but is giving UNC the option to refuse, like a contractor quoting a huge price for a job he does not want. That's an interesting point. Was that 400-page manifesto of horseshit really just him pricing out North Carolina, not with money, but with demand? And is he using that like, oh, if I can show that, someone like North Carolina has interest in me, I can parlay that into getting back in the NFL, because that's where Bill wants to go. Bill Belichick doesn't want to be the coach of North Carolina. Bill Belichick doesn't want to coach any college football team. Why? Talked about it in the video today. Bill Belichick's 14 wins away from the being the all-time winningest coach in NFL history. That's what he wants. He wants 15 wins in the NFL. So even if he in year one had a massive turnaround and say won 9 or 10 games for you, he's taking the first bus back to the NFL he can, and you're right back in the same spot. You're going to be gutted in the portal. Half or more of the players, just like right now, are going to hit the portal. You're going to have your second year in a row of an absolutely awful recruiting class because you just lost your head coach. You literally cannot make a case to me that this makes any sense. Because again, no matter what happens, if he sucks, obviously it's awful. If he's good, he's gone. He's going back to the NFL. There's not a single scenario where this works out for North Carolina. Not a single one. What does the equivalent of key command on the open market? More than what Tech's paying him, probably. It makes perfect sense. Yeah. A coach like Brent Key's probably worth about what Tech's paying him right now. It's not been made public. If I had to guess, Key's probably been bumped to somewhere in the $6 million a year range. That's the other thing we haven't talked about. You better not be paying this guy anywhere near a max contract if you're North Carolina. You better not be paying him, like, in other words, if it comes out that North Carolina's paying Bill Belichick somewhere in the neighborhood of $8 million, I mean, pack it up. Pack it up. What are the details of the contract that they offered Bill Belichick? Because that also really matters. I haven't seen a single head coaching contract in like the last 7 years that's less than 5 years. I also don't think that they're paying Bill anything less than 7, probably. It's somewhere in that neighborhood. Let's just say it's 6.5. That would be a reasonable contract, but I don't think Bill's coming for 6.5. All right, now I've demonstrated to you guys I can't do arithmetic in my head. 6.5 for 5 years, that's $32.5 million contract, which doesn't include his staff. Who is Bill going to put in his staff? That's the other thing we haven't considered. Not only does no one want to hire this guy, no one wants to work with this guy. You're not going to be able to hire a competent staff, in other words, most likely around him. I appreciate it. Josh Pittman says Jeff Collins, of course. For all that I'm saying negative about Bill Belichick, there couldn't be two people that are more polar opposites in how they coach football than Bill Belichick and Jeff Collins. Nobody liked working for Saban either. One of them has been successful in college football, though, and one of them hasn't. And I think the reasons people dislike working for Nick are slightly different than what people who have issues with Bill Belichick are. I'm sold. Jeff Collins, head coach of all programs at Georgia Tech. Where will Jeffrey end up? Kennesaw State, will he be their next DC? Yeah, I'm not saying that people not liking to work with you is an indictment that things aren't going to work out. What I am saying is when you look at the whole picture and then you add that on top of it, that I think he's going to have issues assembling a staff. It's another thing that's like, man, this is an awful, awful, awful idea. Saban is from the Bill Belichick tree. Here's what I'll say about Saban, though. Number one, Saban quit for the way college football is right now. Let's call that what it is. Saban didn't want any part of what college football is. How old is Nick Saban? Right? He's 70-something, right? And I also believe Saban's 73 years old. So Saban's older than Bill. But also Saban was, I think, more apt to change with the times of things, where I do feel like Bill is more just flat stuck in how he does things. Eric wants $2 million. Hell no. That's the other thing with the portal. At least when the NFL, it's very clear and cut and straightforward with contracts and what the expectation is financially, how long you have a player, what the terms are. In other words, like if someone wanted to get Tom Brady while he was at New England in his prime, it's clear what the buyout is. And then that team, even if you're dumping a bad player, has to eat part of his contract. Nothing even remotely like that happens in college football. None of it's above board. No one really knows. There are no rules, which is also why I think it's tougher on an older guy. The coaching hire for North Carolina is money down. Saban was mad he wasn't one of the few people paying players. Well, I think, can we all agree on this? Saban's been paying players way before it was cool to pay players. Nick Saban was paying players way before it was legal to pay players. Bill cuts the sleeves off his hoodie too. That's really the reason that I have an issue with Bill Belichick. There's only one guy that I respect that cuts his sleeves off. And that's Sea-Dog. I said it on the midday show with you, Slim. If you guys forgot or didn't know, Sea-Dog and I went and got Key's autograph. In fact, that mini helmet has Brent Key's autograph on it. I got him to sign. And it killed me that he didn't tell me that he knew who I was. My ego couldn't handle that. Sea-Dog literally cut the sleeve off of a hoodie, though, and brought it to Brent Key to sign. Not only did, I forgot to say this on the midday show, not only did Brent Key sign it and say, that's really cool, he mentioned in the next press conference signing the sleeve. So, Sea-Dog's goated. Sea-Dog's kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal. We will beat UNC for years to come if they hire him. The thing is, we don't play UNC for 4 more years. That's the other reason. When you look at all of the teams that wanted out of the ACC, they bitch, whine, and complain just like SEC schools. It makes all the sense in the world. North Carolina was on that train. Oh, well, we got to get our stuff together because when we're in the SEC, it's going to be different. Yeah. Then what happened? North Carolina acts like they matter. That's the weird thing to me, too. And the ACC kowtows to Tobacco Row like no end. It's insane. Look at all their schedules. Silky smooth. Right? They get everything they want. Still can't win the conference. Miami has a more recent conference title than North Carolina. It was in the Big East, but it's more recent. North Carolina's last ACC title was in 1980. Jeff and Bill will be completely unstoppable. We'll have to get the Rock in there to stop them. I mean, When I first heard this, you know what I thought?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state?
I thought it was fake news. I didn't think it was serious. Then I thought,
That boy ain't right.
North Carolina's not right. Something ain't right with them. North Carolina does have more ACC titles than Miami. That is true. But every team in the conference has more ACC titles than Miami, I think. Is there anyone that's never won the ACC? Somebody has thrown a big bag at Singleton. Well, we knew, look, this was an issue last year. And this is something you're going to have to figure out in college football. I think someone posted on Twitter today the biggest NIL collectives. I think Texas is the biggest. I think it's like Texas. Surprisingly, Bama was at 4th. Maybe UGA was at 2 or 3. LSU was in there. It wouldn't surprise me, guys. And I'm not just saying this. With who I see Tech going after in the portal, if Tech has a bigger NIL collective than UNC, that would not surprise me at all. Harry Legg, UGA's definitely thrown a bag at Eric Singleton Jr. I know that for a fact. But is he worth $2 million? No. I don't think he's worth $2 million. That's probably the other thing we need to talk about. Like, at some point, this has to start rolling the other way, right? It has to. Anytime you see these trends, like now with payer play, where they just go, woo, 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 like something's got to give with that. Mojo, what's going on? Good to see you in here, buddy. Says, I'm a little surprised Ole Miss didn't have the biggest collective. What's going on, Zach Jones? Portal is the work of Satan. I know for a fact we ain't paying that. No, you're not. I'm not saying you're paying that. What I am saying is you did throw a bag at him, though. That is what I'm saying. But it wasn't $2 million. Ole Miss is the rumor. Well, Ole Miss and Florida went after him last year, right? That's the other thing. Like, it's totally okay to just tamper and whatnot. And I'm not even harping on it. Like, everyone does it. But it's a little bit much. Like, it's just a little bit much. Selfishly, for me, it's like a heart attack. You know, usually, think about this, guys. Usually when you finish the regular season, if you're not a playoff team, which I'm not, obviously, it's a time to kind of decompress a little. It's a time to decompress a little bit. Not anymore. Now it's like the most stressful time of year, just waiting, like that meme where like I'm smoking a cigarette, just seeing. We did have another player hit the portal today, by the way. I think it was Uchi, Io Uchi or something. He was a defensive lineman. There's going to be a massive need for defensive linemen for Georgia Tech, which sucks because particularly at defensive end, other than quarterback, that's the biggest market player you're going to have. In fact, it would not surprise me that if on every team, the highest NIL player is your quarterback and the second highest paid player is a defensive end. Why? Because they just can affect the game the most on defense. Right? If you can get to the quarterback, if the quarterback can't hold the ball for more than 2.5 seconds, I mean, it does everything for your team. Right? Offensively, you don't have to score as many points. Defensively, you don't have to cover people as long, etc. Uchiio, that's it. He left because he's just not good enough. He was a borderline 3-star. I don't know anything about it. Heard somewhere that Ole Miss had a $10 million roster. You probably heard that from me. Now, that's the other reason. And I hope people get mad about this. I've been on rants. The SEC are a bunch of crybabies. They are. I hope that makes you upset. I hope that it ruins your day. It's the truth. Now, why is Lane Kiffin crying? Well, because Lane Kiffin really went on a limb last offseason and said, hey, guys, you donors have got to pony up money because if you can get me this $10 million roster I want, we're going all the way. Not only did they not go all the way, they didn't even make the playoffs, nor do they deserve to make the playoffs. Can we all at least agree on that in the chat? I know, like, Harry Legg, you're a Georgia fan and stuff, but can we at least agree Ole Miss doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs? Ole Miss lost to Kentucky, who only has one SEC win. Yeah, they beat Georgia, but who you lose to matters. Not only did you lose to Kentucky, who only has one SEC win, you lost to them at home. Well, Georgia struggled with them, only beat them by 1 point. And yes, if you're a Georgia fan, you have to admit that's embarrassing and not a good look. But at least you won the game. Ole Miss didn't. So what I'm saying is the reason he's crying so is because he went out on this limb to get all this donor money, to get the roster he wanted, not even a playoff team. Now he looks like a moron. He looks like an idiot to his own donors. And they're probably not. I mean, look, if I'm a donor, right? I've got $20 million in the bank and I just ponied up, I don't know, $2.5 million to assemble this roster in part. I'm not as likely to pony it up again. It's like, damn, why would I give you another $2.5 million? Because this other thing, you kind of have to look at this as an investment if you're a donor and you're investing into winning football games. I just made the biggest investment of my life last year, Lane, and I'm playing Duke in a bowl game. Who I'm picking to win that game. How many people has Ole Miss had hit the portal? How many people are opting out of this bowl game for Ole Miss? My point is, you're going to have way more people not playing in this bowl game that matter for Ole Miss than you are for Duke. And Duke's not a bad football team. Now, I say that, but Duke's quarterback, you're right, hit the portal. And that's brutal. Put yourself in the shoes of a Duke fan right now. Malik Murphy. Last year, you have Riley Leonard, best quarterback you've probably had since Daniel Jones, who isn't doing anything in the NFL, but he was a good college quarterback for them. Then your coach gets hired by A&M. Your DC gets hired by Georgia Tech and totally transforms their defense. Riley Leonard leaves, right? Pretty much your whole team gets gutted. You bring Manny in, who no one was super excited about, but people like me, who are the definition of reasonable, I think we've all established that. I said, hey, I think it's a good hire for Duke. No one had Duke winning 9 games this year. No matter what you think, even if you're an SEC fan, no matter what you think of the ACC, you didn't have Duke winning 9 games in their first year under Manny Diaz. Malik Murphy ends up showing out. Good quarterback, athletic quarterback, guy that last year or the year before was at Tennessee, transferred from Tennessee, or was it Texas? Might have been Texas. One of the teams that favor orange he played for the year before. Hits the portal. It's brutal. It's brutal. In fact, it was Texas. A lot of these players might not even 100% have intentions of leaving their school, but they're hitting the portal to test the market and possibly get a better deal with their school. And you can't be resigned to self-pity over that either. If you could do that and go get more money, you would. It's a business now. It's a business. These players have agents. Now, the other thing I've seen, and we all know how reputable Twitter is, but the other thing I've seen is that these agents for these kids are taking ridiculous marks off their contracts, like 10% or more, which is insane for an agent. More like 2 or 3% would be reasonable. That's the other thing I fear with these kids is like who's really looking out for these kids. That you can look at story after story after story after story of people just being taken absolute advantage of by agents, by family members, by friends. And you're going to see it with these college players too. And it makes me sad, because you put your self in the shoes of an 18-year-old kid that just got offered a $4 million deal over 4 years. Number one, Are you disciplined enough to listen to whoever's around you, to even set aside the money for taxes you need to? Like, I'd wonder how many of these kids are going to run into major tax issues in the future. And if you're an 18-year-old kid and you're like, oh, I just signed a $4 million contract, I don't have to worry about money no more. We can go to the club and spend 30 grand and it don't matter. You do that 20, 30 times a year though. First of all, half of that contract's going to Uncle Sam. They probably don't look at it that way either. Half of the thing's going to Uncle Sam. Yeah, I think you could easily get yourself in a rough situation. What are my thoughts on Miami seniors playing in the Pop-Tart Bowl instead of opting out? I respect it. Look, I respect it. I'm not in the business of really complimenting Miami because I hate everybody. I'm an equal opportunity hater. But I think it's respectable. Like, if Cam Ward actually, now they're saying that now. Let me be clear. Whether they hold to that or not and actually play in the bowl, and how hard they play in the bowl, we'll see. I have a feeling not all the players are going to hold to that. Look, I hope I'm wrong. It doesn't matter to me whether they do or not, but it's respectable. Here's another thing to think about. The portal window opens up right after conference championship week, right? And this is not even really me taking a shot at Eric Singleton Jr. trying to cope or anything, but I do remember a third down late in that game in the fourth quarter. We either ran a jet sweep to Singleton. I actually think it was a crosser or a drag route we ran to Singleton when we were playing Georgia, where he avoided contact to run out of bounds. I'll try and find the clip where he could have engaged in contact or probably tried to make a move and had someone hit him where he could have got that first down. Knowing what we know now, I'm like, man, in other words, are we going to see players avoid making big plays or avoid contact in the week leading up to the portal window because they don't want to get hurt? Hell, will we see players now, instead of opting out of bowl games, opt out of rivalry week? Will we see players opt out of rivalry week? You know, we said we never thought we'd see players opt out. Then, I never thought I'd see players demand to be redshirted. Would not surprise me if in the future you start seeing kids opt out of rivalry week or the last game of their season if they don't have a rivalry game. They need to stop conference tie-ins with bowls and just make good matchups. Now that I do agree. That I do agree with. No one cares, but because conferences don't even really matter for bowl games anymore, do they? There's no geography that matters in conferences or any of that. So why do we need tie-ins? I will say, as much as I have shit on Vanderbilt, like, it is a cool matchup to have Georgia Tech and Vandy. The Nerd Bowl or the Academic Bowl or, however you want to do it. I'll say this too. I'm trying to think of what would be better matchups for this year. What do you want to see in bowl matchups? Appreciate the $10 from Joel S. You've sent me an article here. I hope it's not actually linked to a wiener pick, but we will see. I trust you. You sent me a Sports Illustrated article by Jackson Caudell. Shout out to Jackson Caudell. I think he does Believe at Georgia Tech or whatever channel. You should definitely go check that out. Yellow Jacket sends out offers on several players' first day transfer portal opens. We'll look at it. Miami versus Colorado, Bama would be way more interesting. Yeah, does anyone care about Alabama, Michigan this year? First of all, you saw it last year in a playoff game. Yeah, I mean, do you really want to see it this year? In fact, let me just, because I had to delete that stream because I didn't know Touchdown Tim was making a very specific type of joke that I can't allow on my channel anymore. I'll just go through the bowl matchups. I think there's 44, right? Let's keep track of how many we actually care about. Like, how many of these bowl games are you even going to watch, right? Let's see. Bowl matchups. There's 39 college football games. By the way, not this week, but the week after, you get your first playoff games. C-Dog was telling me about that, and it surprised me. I was like, yeah, that makes sense, because if you win your first round, you got to have time to prepare for the next game and so on and so forth, right? But it was just weird to be like, oh, man, we got first round of playoffs a week from this Saturday. Or is it Friday? I think one of them's on a Friday, isn't it? Whoever did this article is an absolute idiot. Just very clearly list out all these bowl matchups. Okay, here we go. Salute the Veterans Bowl, South Alabama versus Western Michigan. I actually talked to C-Dog about this matchup. I know that sounds funny, but I did. I want to maybe stream this. This is this Saturday, December the 14th, and really hype up this matchup. Like, oh my God, South Alabama, Western Michigan, guys. I'm going to preview this game. Ton of talent out here on the field. 9 p.m. this Saturday. It's going to be great. If you thought Alabama LSU was the game of the century, it ain't got nothing on what South Alabama, Western Michigan's going to be. Because I think it's hilarious. Because I'm a troll. That's why I would do that. Rock and Rant says, what's up, WreckTalk? UNC becoming a retirement home for head coaches and breeding ground for next level Nepo babies. Yeah, you not only do you get old coaches, you get nepotism. And everyone's a fan of nepotism, right? Like when you go to work, like you just hope everyone's related, right? Kind of like an Alabama family tree. What is the like if you had an Indeed posting for the UNC head coaching job, what would it be like? Like first job requirements, must be older than 65. Job requirements, must be eligible to draw Social Security. Not the early one. You got to be, I think the earliest you can draw Social Security is 63. That's not good enough. You have to be old enough to be fully vested in Social Security at 67. What's the other requirement? Must have some kind of issue with you, some kind of toxicity. Also, must have a girlfriend that is literally young enough to be your granddaughter. That way we can get away with how old you are. He's got to know what's going on with that, right? Like, if I came out tomorrow and said, hey, here's my girlfriend, she's 20, you know something's weird with that. You know something's weird. Something's weird. I'm going to end up dead soon. But yeah, South Alabama, Western Michigan. Vegas versus Cal is a good matchup. That could be, yeah. Bill will make will make UNC great if he goes there. Believe it. Falcons missed their swing. Agree to disagree. Does his son have no pride? Yeah, that's the other thing. Wouldn't you love to get a job just because your dad's the CEO of something? Like, wouldn't you feel like a doofus for that? Wouldn't you want to go make something on your own? Like, isn't his name Steven Belichick? I'd call up my dad and be like, dude, can you shut up about me? Do I make this comparison? I'm gonna. No, I'm not. I'm not gonna make that comparison. Not gonna make that comparison. Let's see what you sent me. The Birmingham Bowl, Commodore Nation, we've officially exceeded our allotment. Yeah, I have seen that. Vandy will have more fans. I have seen there's been a lot of people buy tickets for this game. I might have missed out my opportunity. Can I even buy tickets anymore? Do I have to go to SeatGeek where it's like, you go on SeatGeek and it's like, all right, I'd like to purchase this ticket. It's $125. Then when you go to check out, it's $275. And you're like, what? And they're like, well, we've got a fee for this and then taxes and then administrative fees. When I went and bought the tickets to go to North Carolina, I bought an allotment of 4, I think. There isn't just an outright fee. They hit me for a like $25 fee per each ticket. Per each ticket. Insane. Insane. There's a special place in hell for SeatGeek and Ticketmaster and all those people. All right. Salute to Veterans Bowl, South Alabama, Western Michigan. No one's going to watch that. Okay. Georgia Southern, Sam Houston, the New Orleans Bowl. No one's going to watch that. Bahamas Bowl, Buffalo versus Liberty. Liberty is about to lose their head coach. Has Central Florida named Jamie Chadwell as their next coach? That's the crazy thing. Like, North Carolina should be going after Jamie Chadwell, not Bill Belichick. But no one cares about the Bahamas Bowl. New Mexico, the New Mexico Bowl. TCU versus Louisiana. They should call that like the Atomic Bowl or something, because Los Alamos Labs is there. Oh, that's right. Central Florida rehired Scott Frost. Let's change screens here. Let's change screens. That way you guys can see what I'm seeing. Yeah. Can you get this off? See, this is what pisses me off so much. And if you guys didn't know this trick, people do this. So, like, CBS Sports probably has a YouTube channel. They embed their videos in this other stuff. That counts as views for them. So they're basically cheating to get views by embedding it here. But then I'm just streaming to read the article, and they'll copyright claim me for this. And on a live stream, it takes your stream down. It's complete nonsense. That makes this Bill Belichick thing even worse, because Jamie Chadwell's still on the table. God. New Mexico Bowl, TCU versus Louisiana. No one's going to watch that. Would we rather to see any of these other teams match up against each other? Like TCU, Georgia Southern would be more interesting to me. I don't know. Game Above Bowl. Pittsburgh versus Toledo. I talked about this on the other stream I had to delete, but it would be hilarious if Pittsburgh dropped their last 6. What are you doing to the ACC, Pittsburgh? Start off 7-0, lost your last 5 games. In fact, who has been Pittsburgh's last 5 losses? I know one of them was Boston College, who's been better without Castellanos than they have with them. Not the Pittsburgh Steelers. What are you doing? Do I really have to say Pittsburgh Panthers? Do I really have to say that? All right, 2024 Pitt schedule. They lost to SMU, which is fine, right? They ended up going to the ACC title. But then they lost to Virginia, Clemson. So 2 of their losses are to the 2 teams that played in the ACC title. Louisville's not a bad loss. Boston College is, though. And that's why you're playing Toledo. They beat Syracuse. They beat the brakes off Syracuse, who's a pretty good team. What time next year do we get Pitt next year? They haven't released even the dates those games will be playing yet. You hate Pat Narduzzi. Why is South Carolina State and Jacksonville State playing in the Benz? That's a good question. So we don't care about Pittsburgh, Toledo. Northern Illinois, Fresno State. Honestly, Northern Illinois should have a better bowl just because they beat Notre Dame. I don't care what happened after that. I do not care. The bowls, like, we've already seen that, like, no one cares about what matters or what's fair in college football. NIU should have a better bowl. West Virginia versus Memphis, I might watch. That's interesting. That could be interesting. James Madison versus Western Kentucky. We missed a perfect opportunity. James Madison should be playing North Carolina in a bowl game. embarrassment round 2. Yeah, I think James Madison should play North Carolina. No one cares about Western Kentucky. Miami of Ohio versus Colorado State. Now, here's another missed opportunity. Miami of Ohio should be playing Miami in a bowl, in the Pop-Tart Bowl, for the right to claim the moniker of Miami. Who's the better Miami? Are they located in Ohio? Are they located in Dade County, right? Yeah, I did see that NIU's coach was friends with Freeman and was like, hey, here's how we beat you. Why would you do that? I'm not good enough friends with anyone to give them that information. I'm not even really good friends with anybody. Let alone some guy who I just beat. In fact, this is what I would do if I was NIU's coach, other than tell them how I beat them. I'd be like, hey, I'll tell you how I beat them, and then I would lie so they lose again. Jackson State versus Ohio. Don't care. That's a noon game on a Friday. Absolutely no one's going to watch the Cure Bowl. We talked about 68 Ventures Bowl. That should be called the 69 Lamau Ventures Bowl. Arkansas State versus Bowling Green. Don't care. North Texas versus Texas State. This is the first bowl I've seen that kind of makes sense. You got a Texas on Texas thing. Right. You got a Texas on Texas thing. Miami beat Miami of Ohio last year 38-3. I guess that makes sense, but still. Did you see rumors on Freeman going to the Bears and taking the head coaching job? I have not, but that would fit into my narrative of people are tired of dealing with the absolute insanity that is college football. But you're right. What is your name? Sid Irish? Who wants to go to the Bears? When was the last time the Bears even made the playoffs? I don't really pay attention to NFL because it's boring. But when was the last time the Bears were in the playoffs? Was it Rex Grossman, who was at Florida, who played at college football at Florida? Playoff history. When was the last time the Chicago Bears were in the playoffs? 2020. They were a wild card team. The last time they won their division was 2010. So they were a wild card team in 2019. They lost to the Eagles. And then in 2020, so that's been 4 years now, they lost to the Saints. The Bears are a disaster of a program. Something else to talk about in the difference in college football and NFL. Because of the way the portal is and NIL, and you just have players to basically year-to-year contracts. There's no like long-term contract for somebody. Offenses have to be dumbed down because you might get a guy like Cam Ward for a year. You have to have an offense that he can pick up and run well within a year. And that's not at all me calling Cam Ward dumb. I don't think Cam Ward's dumb. Obviously, Cam Ward's basically been named the best quarterback in college football, winning the Davey O'Brien Award. But the portal has to have an effect on how complicated your offense can be because you might have a quarterback for a year. Something else to support that is in the NFL. This is also why it's so difficult for a quarterback to make the transition to college to pros. Because there's really no overlap in those offenses, right? Makes you wonder if the NFL will get involved for that reason. Who knows? North Carolina versus UConn. I don't care. Honestly, with everything North Carolina's been through, they should be the first six-win team that doesn't make a bowl. Because no one cares about them, because North Carolina doesn't care about them, because they're trying to hire Bill Belichick. Will Bill Belichick coach this game? Haven't we had coaches that are hired in the time between the end of the regular season to the bowl? and then the new coach coaches the bowl. Hasn't that happened before? Didn't we get a tight end from UConn? Maybe. I don't know. It's not like I do, my whole channel's not Georgia Tech. I should know that. Tyler Davis. Okay. That's right. No one's watching. I haven't seen a single bowl game that anyone really cares about up to this point. Gasparilla Bowl. Defending Gasparilla champs, everybody, right here. Florida versus Tulane. That's kind of an interesting game, but didn't Tulane's quarterback just hit the portal? Isn't their coach likely to be poached? I think so. Florida retains their head coach, though. Lucas Cox was a transfer from UConn back in the day. I did not know that, Mojo. I did not know that. Halls was from Yale, yeah. That's the other thing with the portal. It makes bowls unwatchable unless they're a playoff bowl. UNLV versus Cal, that could be interesting. I would have to pick UNLV in that game. How many players, how many opt-outs does Cal have? I would think most of the good defensive, because they did have a good defense. I think Cal had like the third best ACC defense. Don't sleep on ACC defenses either. I would think they're going to get gutted in the portal, though. Why do I say that? Because Cal is like $450 million in debt right now. What an absolute garbage can the whole state of California is. My God. It's been a while. California, they have this massive homeless problem. They literally, I think, installed retractable and extendable spikes on the sidewalks so that homeless people couldn't sleep on them. They literally extended spikes. Yeah. Kansas State versus Rutgers. Does anyone care about Rutgers? No. Coastal Carolina and UTSA? No. Oklahoma versus Navy? That could be interesting. Navy's much better. And isn't the Army-Navy game this weekend, too? Probably watch that. It's not a bowl game, though. Damn, Oklahoma's playing at noon. Oklahoma's so bad. They're 6-6. They're playing in a noon Armed Forces Bowl. Noon or 3:30. It's probably ended up being 3:30. But anyways, they were good enough to beat Bama. Vandy has 16 players in the portal. Wow. How many does Tech have right now? And how many of those 16 players are starters for Vandy? Probably a good number of them. NC State, Eastern Carolina. You got a Carolina Bowl there. Is East Carolina in North Carolina? Where is Eastern Carolina located? Could you advertise more things to me right now? Someone figure out where Eastern Carolina is for me. They're in South Carolina. They're in Greenville. Okay. Army versus Marshall. And I'm not even exaggerating. Marshall might not even have enough players to field a team. Legitimately, Marshall might have to forfeit this game versus Army, which is absolutely heartbreaking if you're Army. Army's had a hell of a year this year. It's in Greenville, North Carolina. I forget, if you didn't know, every state in the union has a Greenville, and that should be banned. Georgia has 10 players in the portal, 2 of which that I can think of are contributors. Furman is in Greenville, South Carolina. I went to football camp there every summer when I played high school ball. And they had a coach named Bobby Lamb at the time. I think he's at Mercer right now. Anyone know about old Bobby Lamb? And every summer, Bobby Lamb would sit us aside to have a little talk. And he'd say, now look, guys, I know they having tennis camp here too, alongside football camp. And I know them skirts are kind of short, all right? I don't want us to be seeing no hanky-panky with none of these ladies, all right? Because I ain't no telling what they'll say. And he said it every year as if he had had some issue in the past with, like Hugh Freeze had at Liberty. It was quite weird. Good old Bobby Lamb, I'll never forget you. Keep doing what you're doing. Army got screwed. Not that they care. Yeah, they do. Army 100% got screwed. Let me go look. How many players does Marshall have in the portal right now? Also, they just had their head coach fired. They're going to have an interim coach. And that interim coach might leave before the bowl game, too, for how things are going in Marshall football right now. Marshall 20. All right. How many players? Can you just count them for me? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we need 20. Is it 2024 or 2025 that is this current portal year? What did I do to get into Georgia Tech? Lots of hand jobs. I'm actually not that smart of a person. I mean, what do you think, man? Athlon Sports. Entire college football team reportedly could enter the portal. Look at this. December 9th. So that was yesterday. Over 3,900 players entered the transfer portal during the last cycle. Basically, the entire Marshall football team is entering the portal, which sets up an interesting potential move. Could all those guys follow Huff to Southern Miss? Something's got to be done about this, man. And this isn't me bitching about like losing Singleton at all. It has nothing to do with this. But when you have a situation where a head coach can go to another team and literally take every single player, or, for all intents and purposes, take every player that matters with them, something is way sideways and wrong with that. Hadn't Marshall been through enough? They made a movie about him. Be wild to watch. How do you do this article and not tell me how many players are currently in the portal, though? That's the tragedy. I want to know how many players they currently have in the portal. That's how effed up the portal is. I can't even tell. Let's look at Thundercast. Players entering the portal. So you got 1, 2, their quarterback, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Their two top quarterbacks, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Damn, even their long snapper hit the portal. Even their long snapper, what'd I say, 25, 26. Players transferring into Marshall, 0. So it's either 25 or 26 players that Marshall has entering the portal. All right. Army's got to play them. They're going to play a high school team, basically, or whatever's left of Marshall. That's absolutely criminal to Army. Absolutely criminal what they're doing to Army. That's something else we don't think about. Like these teams like Army, or like Eastern Carolina, or something like these group of 5 teams that are playing, and they didn't do anything, and they're not even going to have an interesting bowl to play in. They might not even have a bowl to play in. Like, I'm serious. If that's the case, Marshall literally might not have enough players to field a team. Or if they do, if they have one injury, they got to have at least 22 players. Well, they got to have at least 11, right? We do know that. They got to have at least 11 players to play. Duke's Mayo Bowl, Minnesota at Virginia Tech. That's kind of an interesting matchup. Nebraska versus Boston College. That's unreal about Marshall. I watched them win the Sun Belt against Louisiana Lafayette, I think it's ULL, and they look good. Nuts that their team has fallen apart like that. Well, yeah, this is what's happening in today's college football. I mean, it is what it is. Missouri versus Iowa. I don't really care. Arkansas, Texas Tech. South Florida versus San Jose State, Louisville, Washington. That's the second game I've seen on here that I'm interested in. LSU Baylor, I don't even really care about that. In the Texas Bowl, A&M and USC. That could be interesting because USC opened the season and beat LSU. So this will be their second SEC matchup. I don't think they played another SEC team. BYU Colorado is interesting. Wait, aren't they both Big 12 teams though? Aren't they both Big 12 teams? How are they matched up in a bowl? I did have some insane ones. I literally had to tell them to stop. Like, I can't handle this anymore. I probably will stream some of these primetime games. South Carolina, Illinois. South Carolina got done absolutely dirty. South Carolina should have had a better draw. Like, South Carolina, Colorado would have been a way better game. Again, you've got Colorado playing BYU. They're both in the same conference, right? Or am I thinking crazy? No one cares. In fact, did Colorado play BYU? Have they already played? Let's look at Colorado's schedule. Let's look at their schedule. They have not played yet. Okay. Well, at least we avoid that level of stupidity. But South Carolina got done dirty. Like, I'd rather seen South Carolina play Syracuse. Syracuse plays Washington State. I don't know much about Washington State. Syracuse probably deserved a better draw than that. Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Georgia Tech fan, is an interesting matchup just because they're both academic schools. Everyone's going to be calling it the Nerd Bowl. 2 thumbs up on that one. Hopefully they won't get too murdered in the portal, and that will be an interesting game. Should be. Michigan, Alabama, no one cares about. Ole Miss, Duke, we care about just because you have crybaby Lane Kiffin. But they're probably going to roll over Duke now that Duke is without their starting quarterback. I mean, hell, I don't even know who Duke's backup quarterback is. Miami versus Iowa State in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I can't even say that's a bad draw for Miami. I mean, Iowa State was in the Big 12 championship, right? As long as the Hurricanes don't have a mass exodus, this should be a great matchup. So this is in Orlando, too. So I say that's not a long way for Miami to travel. I mean, they travel for every home game to Coral Gables. But, I mean, Orlando's probably still 6 hours from Miami. Duke's backup also hit the portal. This is a shame, man. Their backup entered the portal. So Duke's going to be on their 3rd string quarterback. Does Duke have a 4th string? Do they have 3 scholarship quarterbacks on their roster? What I'm saying is, if Duke has an injury at quarterback in the bowl game, wow. That's sad, man. That's sad. And then we have the playoff games. Obviously, Arizona State. Oh, this must be from a while ago. Is this a prediction? No. Arizona State, who are they playing? They're not playing Clemson or Texas because Clemson is playing Texas, right? Anyways, we're not going to go through that. But I will end the show there. It's been entertaining. It's 10 o'clock tonight. Hope you guys had a great time. The point of the whole show is that Bill Belichick's not going to work out. It's an absolutely embarrassing look if you're a UNC fan to justify hiring a coach that is 72 versus 73, a guy that no one wants anything to do with, a guy that's really never coached college football unless you count Navy when his dad coached there back before we landed on the moon. It's not going to be a good time. South Carolina versus Army, yeah, that would be a better game. But I'm going to get out of here, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Y'all have a good one.